The multiverse, there's no escaping it, for better or for worse. While it may feel ubiquitous time of recording, looking back at its history and its rollout proves that it has always been a bit convoluted. This is one of those ideas that, if expanded upon, was destined to get confusing. And it's really fascinating to track the evolution of it. Green Lantern has been really fun so far in 2025, and it put me in the mood to go back and reread a whole bunch of Green Lantern fare. So let's revisit a historically significant Green Lantern story, one that made some huge additions to the DC multiverse lore. And we're going back to the Silver Age, to a time when Green Lantern rings had weaknesses like the color yellow and wood. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and we're gonna watch Hal Jordan fight Alan Scott. Also, it's raining outside. You may or may not be able to hear that. It's adding to the ambiance, the atmosphere. Now, the historical multiverse outing that tends to get the most play when talking about classic DC is The Flash issue 123. Flash of Two Worlds. In that story, Barry Allen crosses over from Earth 1 to Earth 2 and meets Jay Garrick, the Golden Age Flash, the original Flash before him. And there starts to be established that there is a parallel Earth where things evolved fairly similarly, but it has these classic heroes on it. From a metatextual level, this was a way to be able to continue telling some of these stories with these characters who had become a bit displaced following the rise of the Code and the implementation of some of these newer Silver Age characters. Some characters were entirely rebooted and others kind of just kept going. The Code changed a lot of things, but so did just shifting cultural attitudes over time. Now, that Flash issue is a significant one, and it would forever tie the Flash, particularly Barry Allen, to dimension warping shenanigans. However, the issue we're about to look at today would open up something else. Now, the Flash of Two Worlds really played with the idea that these heroes could interact with each other, and then that would go on to lead them to have team-ups and do battle together. But at the start, there were only two Earths. It was neat and simple. While one could have inferred that there were more, it wasn't really something that was dwelt upon. But there was room for it to explode, because the question was always sitting there of why just two? Indeed, by 1964, Earth 3 was introduced, home of the crime syndicate. So things started expanding in terms of alternate versions of the main characters. But what about what that meant for the DC universe, or even how many universes there were? Enter Green Lantern issue 40, Secret Origin of the Guardians. Written by John Broome, with art by Gil Kane, and inks by Sid Green. It was published in 1965. This story is meant to be the explanation behind the Guardians, their origin, why they created the Corps, who they are, but would end up having much farther-reaching ramifications. The cover shows us an enraged Hal who's going after Alan because the Guardians are saying they're going to replace him with Alan, even though Alan doesn't even come from their universe. Harsh. It's no wonder Hal has a complex and later goes evil, only for that to be retconned being possessed. They are so ready to replace him. Never forget the whole "the ring chose you and not Guy because you were closer." We open on Earth 2 in Gotham, because that's where Alan Scott lives. He's the president of Gotham Broadcasting, but he started out his career as a radio announcer, and he's at a party where he's reprising that role. His Golden Age comic relief sidekick, those characters were all the rage for a while, Doiby Dickles, is there too. He does have a fun name to say. He's also driving Alan home because he's a cabbie. Now, on the way home, they see a meteor that seems to be headed right for Gotham. Out of the still rolling cab catapults a uniformed figure that has thrilled many a heart. There it is, streaking and very low. Gotta beam my ring on it before it strikes. Unerringly, the occult power beam meets its target, but strangely enough, it blasted right through my beam and vanished. Now, all of this was so distracting that his comedy sidekick hits a tree, and wonder of wonders, Alan is able to deflect not the car, but the tree. This is significant because Alan Scott's ring's weakness was wood, the material. Get your modern retcon minds out of the gutter. You know what I think, Doiby? It had something to do with that meteor. Somehow, contact with that meteor has eliminated the weakness of my ring? It has no weakness anymore. This is too good to keep to ourselves. I've got to tell the Green Lantern of Earth 1 about this. If this meteor removed the weakness of my ring, similar meteor contact on his Earth might remove the weakness of his ring. Editor's note: due to necessary impurities in the power battery, the Earth 1 power ring could not affect anything colored yellow. Feel that glorious editor's note? Breathe it in. Let it wash over you. Also, that's very nice of Alan. Sometimes in these Silver Age stories, the characters can be a bit manipulative or petty. I was half expecting him to say that he wanted to go and rub his superior ring in Hal's face. Alan is able to travel to Earth 1 with his ring, and they again cite vibrations. Good vibrations. That's how Barry got to Earth 2 the first time. He's vibrated the right way, by accident. Some of the other characters can replicate this with more ease, like Alan because he has his ring, his magic ring. Now, once Alan gets to Earth 1, he telepathically contacts Hal, who gets his costume so they can meet up. But when he goes to show Hal his cool new ability to manipulate wood, it won't work. He can't do it on command. The ring won't perform. I was sure my ring had power over wood, but obviously it doesn't have any longer. So my visit here to try and help you was useless. I might as well go home. No, wait, Alan. Your story has intrigued me. Alan was so excited to come show this to Hal that he didn't stop to think to ask his ring what happened. So Hal suggests that maybe he should do that. The ring, once asked, goes into full exposition mode. It wasn't a meteor, but what came before them was a prison made of pure energy. And it was created 10 billion years ago, at which time there dwelt on this world a race different from humans who called themselves Owens. They were immortal, never needed sleep or rest. They strode the planet like giants. So these are the Owens. They're not called Malthusians yet because we haven't named the planet that. Not yet. Things are going. We're evolving. We're getting there. Baby steps. These are the beings who would become the Guardians, and they live in this paradise where they can devote themselves to leisure and study as they so choose. There's no rush because they have all the time they need. However, not all are satisfied with this seemingly idyllic existence. Among their number was one named Crona, whose thoughts were primarily concerned with one thing. By this instrument of my own devising, I shall probe the beginnings of all things. Nothing shall be hidden from me.
Crona, there's a legend of timeless age among us, that if we ever learn the truth about our secret origins, we and our universe would be instantly destroyed.
Such legends or tales only fools would fear. He's trembling, he believes that so much. Despite all pleas and urging, Crona continued his ceaseless labors, and one day,
an image, a shadow like a giant hand with something, a cluster of stars in it. I must go back further.
Then, the terrible cosmic lightning bolt splintered the machine. It would have destroyed Crona too had he not been immortal. So this is Crona's first appearance, and he's going to go on to be a pretty significant figure when it comes to defining DC lore, the source wall, multiverse, all kinds of things. That's going to be expanded upon, but what they're going to use as the building blocks, it's all here. He's got that same thirst for knowledge. He's trying to access something forbidden. There's a lot of mythological and biblical elements at play here. We're mixing and matching. The hand he sees, which is not done justice in the digital recolorings, will become an iconic piece of DC imagery. And it's going to, at one point, Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, be revealed that Crona observing the hand is what creates the multiverse. So kind of a cosmic observer effect. However, this has changed over time. It's been retconned. We had the New 52, where it was a different hand. It was wearing a ring, the Ring of Volthoom, the first lantern. The lore has definitely grown, expanded. Some would say gotten convoluted. And it's probably set to do so again. In 2025, Mark Waid has said there's going to be a definitive DC history, a miniseries that he's writing. Definitive for now. But for going back in time to look at the origin of DC, this hand, it's just there. The hand of God. Now, the act of Crona's observance, well, it introduces evil into the universe. And it's categorized as coming from Crona's ambition. Ambition is not treated as something positive in this story. Despite this, Crona won't be deterred. He says he will search for their origins forever. And he can, because they're immortal. So the Owens placed him in a disembodied state. And then they put that inside of an energy prison. And there's a part here that's almost a throwaway sentence, but becomes so important. Through endless time, Crona will circle through all universes. Nevermore will his ambition plague us. Let the complications begin. In order to combat the evil that Crona created, unleashed into the universe, the Owens form a kind of core, a Green Lantern core. And of course, this is the Silver Age, so at least one thing had to be accomplished by just dousing oneself in radiation. Also, they took care of one other matter at this period.
This radiation will ensure that none of us and no power ring force that stems from us will ever be able, as Crona tried, to learn the dread secret of our origins. It must remain forever hidden.
You'll notice in this issue there are a lot of explanation panels like that are basically answering questions before readers can ask them. Over time, the Guardians' appearance changed, and we see that they too forgot that Crona was out there, traveling through, and I quote, endless universes. But Crona was still alive, and he had millennia, nay eons, to hatch a scheme. So when he traveled across Earth 2, he had hatched a plan. This plan does rely on him being a huge lurker and everything playing out exactly as he needed, like the best villain schemes. So he knew about the ring's weaknesses, and he also knew that the Lantern of Earth 2, Alan, would instantly want to tell his Earth 1 counterpart about this happening, that he'd lost his ring's weakness. There were a lot of variables, but the risk was worth it, because it worked. When Alan's ring made contact with the energy prison, Crona was able to use his will, because Crona knows what will is, to travel down the beam. However, he was still weakened, and the ring tells us this is because he couldn't do anything until he was back in his home universe. And so he piggybacked a ride with Alan Scott over to Earth 1. Being back on Earth 1 gives Crona enough power that he can detach and also reform a body. Hal says this is something he should tell the Guardians, but they just pop up because they were eavesdropping. How often do they do that? Crona has a one-track mind and truly is obsessed, and so is once more trying to learn those answers about the questions of their origins in the universe. And his presence on Earth is increasing the amount of bizarre misfortune that's happening, mountains moving. So the Guardians tell them that they have to do something until they physically get there to help them stop Crona. I understand. We understand, Hal. We're together in this. Come what may. This is the second time this issue that Alan has pulled a "we need to do something" after Hal says that he needs to do something singular. Hal definitely seems like he's a bit less into this team up than Alan. The second part of this story is the two lanterns stopping all the madness being created in Crona's wake. But the start of this part is noteworthy for another reason, and that is that people were already having a hard time keeping the Earth straight. In the narration box, it gets the Earth they're on wrong. It starts off right, saying they're on Earth 1, which they are, but then a couple of sentences later it says here on Earth 2. However, the Earth with the Silver Age heroes, so Barry, Hal, etc., that's Earth 1. Earth 2 is for the Golden Age people. It is an easy mistake to make. I've made it too. Especially when talking off the cuff, sometimes your brain just starts to go to those heroes were first, hence Earth 1, because you're going in chronological order. But the reality is they're playing with it as the characters that were more in play, the mainline characters having the main Earth of Earth 1, and then the other characters get pushed off to Earth 2. The original issue makes this error twice, actually. At one point, Hal yells out that Alan is the Lantern of Earth 1. Later reprints have corrected that, but the narration error inside of the caption box at start part 2 remains. You can still see it in places like the Green Lantern 75th Anniversary Special. I kind of wish they'd left Hal's error in there too. There's something really hilarious about the idea that he doesn't even know what Earth he's on. Alan and Hal's heroic endeavors are interrupted by the Guardians, who say they've arrived on Earth, and that will curb some of the more out there happenings of evil. But also they say they need to take Hal's ring. What? I've done everything you've ever asked me. I've never shirked a duty. I've suffered and fought, and now you suddenly take away my status as Green Lantern and give it to Alan Scott? Why? Why? You can't do that to Hal. The ring is the only constant in his life. Sometimes he doesn't even have a job or an apartment, but the ring is always there. You can pry the ring from his cold, dead hands. Now, part 3 is gonna have to go back and explain what's going on. We get a nice teaser page of Crona. So Crona, who is still trying to uncover the origin of the universe, even if it destroys it in the process, while the Lanterns were battling the destruction, he possessed Alan Scott's body so that he could get close to the Guardians. From the short distance, I'm able to cast an unbreakable spell over the Guardians. From now on, they'll do what I mentally command them. So the Guardians are being 100% controlled, but the fact is what they're saying is something that Hal can entirely believe they would do, so it's time to challenge Alan Scott to a duel to the death. I mean, just, a friendly challenge. As a stunned Hal reacts violently, nothing doing. The only way I'll quit is if Scott can beat me in a Green Lantern duel, and I'm challenging him to take me on right now. This fight is embarrassing for Hal, because all Crona has to do is make a yellow shield, and then he just knocks Hal out. And I adore the haphazard damselly pose passed out Hal has. I'd like to destroy him utterly, but my mind force informs me it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible. Evidently, his ring automatically acts to protect him in case of mortal danger. Well, he won't bother me anymore, and in any event, if this entire universe disintegrates due to my experiments, he'll go with it. His ring won't save him then. Editor's note. True, Green Lantern's ring will protect him only from dangers within the universe, not from the destruction of the universe itself. Is the universe being destroyed not a danger within the universe? That raises many questions, and this whole section was meant to circumvent the question of why didn't Crona just kill him right there? Also, if the ring automatically protects him from mortal danger, shouldn't it have blocked that beam that was about to hit him when he was all dazed? No, leave that. Crona has more important things to think about, like revealing the secret of the universe in front of the Guardians just for maximum pain, because they don't want to know. Now, he's able at this point to remake/re-enter his body, but when he does this, he also duplicates Alan's ring. For you see, this power ring is not of this universe and will not be affected by its collapse. It will automatically bear me to safety, to the universe of Earth 2. Cunning, am I not? I see Crona is operating under the assumption that learning the origin of this universe will only destroy that one, but what if it's all universes and he just collapses them all? He has not thought this through. There's a lot of assumptions. You know what they say about assuming. Then, before the horrified eyes of the Guardians, powerless to move, to interfere with their ex-colleague's sinister plan, this time no cosmic lightning bolt will halt my attempt. I've shielded my workshop here from any such accident. There again, the formless hand-like cloud, the starry nebula, but I must go back further. Meanwhile, recovering from his latest head injury, Hal is contacted by Alan Scott telepathically. And apparently, Crona didn't just take over his body, but forced his mind out of it, because he talks about how he's disembodied. But that doesn't mean you can't still team up. You just gotta go by ghost rules.
Summoning up all my willpower, Alan, to command my ring to absorb your mind into my own brain. That way we can battle Crona together.
I'll guide you to him. So with Alan firmly inside him, they can defeat Crona. I do like that this one panel calls them double-minded rather than dual-minded.
Adds some flair.
Now they're gonna have some fun with this. Because Alan is in Hal's body,
They can swap rings.
I mean, I suppose they can swap rings anytime, but in this situation, it makes a lot of sense to swap rings. So that when Crona summons a yellow shield against Hal, it doesn't even matter. Hal still ends up bent over backwards though, his poor spine. Again, the grim gladiator is hurled backward. Hal!
Relax, pal, he hasn't won yet. Listen, when I give the signal, add your willpower to mine. Give it all you've got.
You know the panel I want to put here. The reference I'm thinking of, but we've already lightly made that joke, but if you know, you're probably thinking about that panel too. With their wills combined, they're able to stop Crona. The machine is destroyed, and Crona is turned back into energy. And this time they'll send him across space and dimensions and universes, but make sure he doesn't intersect any planets or stars. Because if he escaped that exact same type of prison once, there's no way he can do it again. Meanwhile, the boys celebrate their ingenious let's swap rings idea.
And that trick sure saved the day, but whose idea was it? Yours or mine? You know, I can't recall.
What difference does it make? We are both in the same brain. I'm trying to decipher Hal's expression in this panel. Help. Well, Alan says they can both take credit and then heads back to his Earth, and Hal hopes that they will never see Crona again. Sorry, Hal. This issue is fascinating and fun. The bits of backstory they give for the Guardians in the DC universe end up being so integral to it going forward, and they stand out. There's a mythic element at play, and it elevates those sequences a bit. It's the strongest part of the issue. While the team up is fun, and you get some amusing unhinged Hal moments and some interesting ring powers, those stand out less than those building blocks of lore. Now, part of that may be hindsight bias, having read this after all of the elements introduced have become important. So that is there, and it does need to be taken into account. But even setting that aside, the parts of the story that are giving that history, they're the most cohesive. It's in the other sections where things get confused, or there's lots of laborious exposition to make sure that people can't ask any questions. I'm sure they still ask questions. It's an entertaining team up, and also highlights the terrifying scope/scale of the ring's power. Hal was able to just suck in a disembodied Alan into himself. There was all the telepathy that they were doing, just the way the rings are used. Scary. We also saw that Hal will challenge you to a duel if you're offered his ring. The idea of infinite universes is just a passing mention, but it will be latched onto later on and have really big ramifications. We still live in the wake of this story. In a fun way, although some would argue not in a fun way. What do you think of this story? Do you like the idea of the characters just being able to hop over and see each other? Dimensional whims? Do you wish the multiverse hadn't gotten so large and it was still a bit more restrained? Is this something that's fun in small doses, but if you do it too much, it loses some of its charm? Why would Hal Jordan do this? Your thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Please put them down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things like share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this minute to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.